If you are over 60 years old and you have been told that walking is the best exercise for you, I need you to stop what you are doing and listen very carefully, because what I am about to share with you today has completely changed my understanding of how we rebuild muscle after 60. And I wish someone had told me this 20 years ago, before I watched hundreds of my patients struggle with weakness, falls, and lost independence. My name is Dr. Michael Harrison, and after 34 years as an orthopedic surgeon, I can tell you that the advice most people over 60 are getting about exercise is not just wrong, it is actually making things worse. Let me tell you about Dorothy. Dorothy is 73 years old, a retired school librarian from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. She came into my office last spring with her daughter Sarah by her side. Dorothy was using a walker, and I could see the frustration in her eyes before she even sat down. She looked at me and said, "Doctor, I have been walking every single day for the past 2 years. My doctor told me it was the best thing I could do. I walk around the block every morning. I walk to the mailbox. I even bought one of those fitness watches to count my steps. But I am getting weaker. My legs feel like wet noodles. Last week I could not get up from the toilet without Sarah helping me. What am I doing wrong?" And when Dorothy asked me that question with tears starting to form in her eyes, I realized that she was not alone. I see patients like Dorothy every single week. Good people, dedicated people, people who are doing everything they were told to do, and yet they are still losing the battle against muscle loss. It is like watching someone bail water out of a sinking boat with a teaspoon while the hole in the bottom gets bigger and bigger. You see, here is what most people do not understand. After the age of 60, your body starts losing muscle at a rate of about 3 to 5% every single decade. But here is the part that really matters. Walking, as wonderful as it is for your heart and your mood, does almost nothing to stop this loss. It is like trying to fill a swimming pool with a garden hose while someone else is draining it from the other end. You might slow things down a tiny bit, but you are never going to get ahead. Now I want to introduce you to Robert. Robert is 68 years old, a former construction foreman from Phoenix, Arizona. This man built houses with his own hands for 40 years. He could carry bundles of shingles up a ladder without breaking a sweat. But when he walked into my office, I barely recognized the kind of strength that used to define men like him. Robert sat down heavily in the chair and said, "Doc, I used to be strong. I used to be the guy everyone called when they needed help moving furniture or lifting something heavy. Now I cannot even open a jar of pickles. My wife has to do it for me. And you know what the worst part is? I have been walking 3 miles every single day. 3 miles, and I am still getting weaker." Robert's frustration was palpable. I could feel it coming off him in waves, and I understood because what Robert was experiencing is something I call the walking paradox. People think that if some walking is good, more walking must be better. But when it comes to building muscle, walking is like trying to learn a new language by only listening to it on the radio. You might pick up a word here or there, but you will never actually speak it fluently. Think about it this way. Your muscles are like a bank account. Every day after 60, your body is making withdrawals from that account. Small withdrawals, but constant. Walking is like depositing pennies. Yes, technically you are putting something in, but you will never keep up with the withdrawals. What you need is a way to deposit dollars. And that is exactly what I discovered when I started paying attention to the research coming out of places like Harvard Medical School and the Mayo Clinic. But before I tell you about that, I need you to understand why this matters so much. Because this is not just about looking good or feeling strong. This is about whether you will be able to live independently in 10 years. This is about whether you will be able to pick up your grandchildren. This is about whether you will be there to walk your daughter down the aisle or dance at your grandson's wedding. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret is 79 years old, a grandmother of 6 from Columbus, Ohio. She spent her whole life taking care of others. She raised 4 children, volunteered at her church every Sunday, and was always the first person to show up when someone needed help. But when she came to see me, she was in a wheelchair. Margaret looked at me with those tired eyes and said, "Dr. Harrison, I fell last month. It was not a big fall. I just lost my balance reaching for something on a shelf, but I could not get back up. I lay on that kitchen floor for 3 hours until my neighbor came to check on me. 3 hours. Do you know what it feels like to lie on your kitchen floor, alone, wondering if anyone is going to find you?" Margaret's story broke my heart, but what broke it even more was knowing that her fall was preventable. You see, falls do not just happen. They happen because the muscles that keep us stable, the muscles that catch us when we stumble, have become too weak to do their job. It is like having a car with worn-out brakes. You might be fine for a while, but eventually you are going to try to stop, and nothing is going to happen. And this is where I need to tell you something that might surprise you. The most important muscles for preventing falls are not the ones you might think. Everyone talks about leg muscles, and yes, those matter, but the muscles that really keep you upright, the ones that make the difference between catching yourself and ending up on the floor, are the muscles most people have never even heard of. And walking, unfortunately, does almost nothing to strengthen them. Now, I want to be clear about something. I am not telling you to stop walking. Walking is wonderful for your heart, for your mood, for your circulation. It is like watering a garden. Your garden needs water. But water alone will not make your tomatoes grow. You need something else. You need fertilizer. You need nutrients. You need something that actually feeds the plant. And that something, when it comes to your muscles, is what I am about to share with you. But first, let me tell you about William. William is 71 years old, a retired postal worker from Boston, Massachusetts. This man walked for a living. For 35 years, he walked his mail route every single day, rain or shine, snow or sleet. If anyone should have strong legs, it should be William. But when he sat down in my examination room, he said something that stopped me cold. He said, "Doctor, I walked thousands of miles carrying that mail bag, thousands, and now I cannot even climb the stairs to my bedroom. I have to sleep on the couch, because getting up those stairs feels like climbing Mount Everest. How is that possible? How can someone who walked as much as I did end up this weak?" William's question haunted me, and it sent me on a journey through the medical literature that changed everything I thought I knew about muscle and aging. Because what I found was that walking, while excellent for endurance, creates almost no stimulus for muscle growth. It is like running on a treadmill expecting to get stronger arms. The activity does not match the goal. Here is the way I explain it to my patients. Imagine your muscles are like a construction crew. Every day they need instructions on what to build. Walking tells them to build a little bit of endurance, enough to keep walking, but it does not tell them to build strength. It does not tell them to build the kind of muscle fibers that keep you stable, that power you up out of a chair, that catch you when you stumble. For that you need to give them different instructions. And the instruction your muscles need, the signal that tells them to rebuild and strengthen, comes from one specific type of movement. It is not complicated. It is not expensive. You do not need a gym membership or fancy equipment. You can do it in your living room while watching your favorite television show, and it takes less than 10 minutes a day. But I am getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you exactly what this movement is, I need to share one more story. Because this story is the one that convinced me to start recommending this to every single one of my patients, over 60. Her name is Helen. Helen is 76 years old, a retired bookkeeper from Minneapolis, Minnesota. When she first came to see me, she was considering moving into an assisted living facility. Her daughter had found a nice place with good reviews, and Helen had already started packing her things. She came to me for a final checkup before the move, and she said, "Doctor, I do not want to go. I love my house. I love my garden, but I cannot do it anymore. I cannot carry the laundry basket. I cannot get down on my knees to weed the garden. I cannot even reach the high shelves in my own kitchen. My body has betrayed me." Helen's words, "My body has betrayed me," stayed with me for days, because I knew something she did not know yet. I knew that her body had not betrayed her. She had just been giving it the wrong instructions. She had been walking every day, eating healthy, doing everything right according to the standard advice. But no one had told her about the one thing that could actually rebuild what she was losing. So I told her, and what happened next is something I will never forget. Helen agreed to try what I suggested. It was simple. It required no equipment, no gym, no personal trainer. Just one movement, done correctly, for about 8 to 10 minutes a day. That is less time than it takes to watch one segment of the evening news. Helen was skeptical. I could tell. She had tried so many things before, but she agreed to give it 3 weeks. When Helen came back to my office 21 days later, she walked in without her cane. I noticed it immediately, because that cane had been her constant companion for the past 2 years. She sat down, and before I could even ask how she was doing, she said, "Dr. Harrison, I planted tomatoes yesterday. I got down on my knees, I dug the holes, I planted the seedlings, and I got back up, all by myself. And then I cried, because I honestly thought I would never do that again." Now what I am about to tell you is going to sound almost too simple. You might even be skeptical, like Helen was, but I have seen this work. With my own eyes, in my own practice, with patients who had given up hope. And the research backs it up completely. The movement I am talking about is the slow, controlled squat, but not just any squat, and definitely not the kind of squats you might see young people doing at the gym with heavy weights on their backs. This is different. This is specifically designed for bodies over 60, and it is based on a principle that most exercise advice completely ignores. Here is the key. When you lower yourself slowly, taking about 4 to 6 seconds to go down, and then push back up slowly, taking another 4 to 6 seconds, something magical happens in your muscles. It is like turning up the volume on a radio station that was barely coming through. Suddenly your muscles can hear the signal clearly. Suddenly they know what to do. Think of it like this. Your muscles have been getting a whisper, a faint suggestion to stay somewhat active, but they need a shout. They need a clear, unmistakable command to rebuild. And that command comes from this slow, controlled movement against your own body weight. Now, let me tell you about George. George is 67 years old, a retired accountant from Atlanta, Georgia. George had tried everything. He had joined a gym and quit after 2 months. He had bought exercise videos and never finished them. He had even hired a personal trainer for a few sessions, but the exercises were too hard and left him sore for days. He came to me frustrated and said, "Doctor, I am not athletic. I never have been. I was the kid who got picked last for every team in school. Is there any hope for someone like me?" And I told George the same thing I am telling you now. This is not about being athletic. This is not about pushing yourself until you are gasping for breath or so sore you cannot walk the next day. This is about giving your muscles a clear signal, a simple instruction that tells them to rebuild. And anyone, at any fitness level, can do this. George started with what I call the chair squat. He stood in front of his kitchen chair, lowered himself down slowly until he was almost sitting, held for a moment, then pushed back up slowly. That was it. He did 10 of these, twice a day. The whole thing took him about 6 minutes. After 2 weeks, George called my office. He did not wait for his next appointment. He picked up the phone and called, because he could not believe what was happening. He said, "Dr. Harrison, I carried all the groceries in from the car yesterday, all of them in one trip. My wife thought I had lost my mind, but my legs felt so strong, I just kept going." This is what happens when you give your muscles the right signal. It is like watering a plant that you thought was dead and watching it come back to life. The potential was always there. The muscles were waiting. They just needed to be told what to do. Now I want to give you the exact details of how to do this correctly, because the details matter. The first thing you need is a sturdy chair or a countertop that you can hold onto for balance. Safety first, always. You are not trying to prove anything to anyone. You are trying to rebuild your body. Stand in front of the chair with your feet about shoulder width apart. Hold onto the countertop or the back of another chair for balance if you need to. Now here is the important part. Begin to lower yourself slowly, as if you were going to sit down. Count to 4 or even 6 as you lower. Keep your chest up, your eyes forward. You are not bending over like you are looking for something on the ground. You are sitting back like there is an invisible chair behind you. Lower until your thighs are about parallel with the floor or as far as you comfortably can. Then pause for just a moment. Feel your leg muscles working. They are awake now. They are listening. Then push back up slowly, taking another 4 to 6 seconds to rise. That is 1 repetition. Start with 8 to 10 repetitions. Rest for a minute, then do another 8 to 10. That is it. The entire workout takes less than 10 minutes, and you can do it while watching television, while waiting for your coffee to brew, while talking on the phone with your grandchildren. Let me tell you about Thomas. Thomas is 74 years old, a retired bus driver from Newark, New Jersey. Thomas was convinced that his days of being strong were behind him. He told me, "Doctor, I am 74. People do not rebuild muscle at 74. That ship has sailed." But I challenged him to try this for just 3 weeks. I said, "What do you have to lose? 10 minutes a day for 21 days. Thomas agreed, mostly because his wife was in the room and she gave him that look that wives give when they expect compliance. He started doing the slow squats, just like I described. And on day 18, Thomas called me. He was almost shouting into the phone. He said, "Dr. Harrison, I just stood up from the floor. I dropped my reading glasses, they rolled under the coffee table, and I got down to get them, and then I got back up. Do you understand what I am saying? I got up from the floor. I have not been able to do that in 3 years." This is what happens when you stop giving your muscles the wrong signal and start giving them the right one. Walking tells your muscles to maintain a minimal level of function. Slow, controlled squats tell your muscles to rebuild, to strengthen, to grow. It is the difference between treading water and actually swimming toward the shore. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking that your knees are bad, or your hips hurt, or you have arthritis that makes squatting impossible. I hear this concern all the time, and here is what I tell my patients. First, if you have significant joint problems, you should absolutely talk to your doctor before starting any new exercise. I am sharing general information based on my experience, but your specific situation matters. Second, and this is important, the slow squat is actually gentler on your joints than most other strengthening exercises. The slowness is the key. There is no jarring, no sudden movements, no stress. It is like the difference between slamming on your brakes and gradually slowing to a stop. The gradual approach is what protects your joints while still sending that crucial signal to your muscles. Let me tell you one more story. This one is about a woman named Elizabeth. Elizabeth is 81 years old, the oldest patient I have ever recommended this to. She lives in Tucson, Arizona, and she has had both knees replaced. When I suggested the slow squat approach, her daughter was in the room and she immediately said, "Doctor, my mother cannot do squats. She has 2 artificial knees." But I explained the modified version. Elizabeth could use her kitchen counter for support. She could limit her range of motion, only going down as far as comfortable. She could take even longer on the descent, maybe 8 seconds instead of 4. The point was not to go deep or push hard. The point was to send the signal. Elizabeth started with what I call the mini squat. She lowered herself only about 6 inches, holding the counter the entire time, taking a full 8 seconds to descend, and another 8 seconds to rise. After 3 weeks, she could go a little deeper. After 2 months, she could lower until her knees were bent at about a 45-degree angle. Nothing dramatic by gym standards, but for Elizabeth, it was a transformation. She called me after about 10 weeks. Her voice was trembling, not with fear, but with emotion. She said, "Dr. Harrison, I danced with my husband last night. We put on our wedding song, and I danced with him in our kitchen. I have not been able to do that in 5 years." And then she started crying, and honestly, so did I. This is why I do what I do. This is why I am sharing this with you today, because I have seen what happens when people stop following the wrong advice and start giving their bodies what they actually need. I have seen people get up from wheelchairs. I have seen people throw away their canes. I have seen people reunite with activities and abilities they thought were gone forever. Now, there are a few more important points I want to make sure you understand. First, consistency matters more than intensity. You do not need to do more and more squats. You do not need to add weights or make it harder. You just need to do it regularly, every day or every other day. The signal needs to be consistent for your muscles to respond. Second, the slowness is non-negotiable. If you speed through the movement, you lose the benefit. The magic happens in those 4 to 6 seconds of slow, controlled movement. That is when your muscle fibers are activated. That is when the rebuilding signal gets sent. It is like marinating meat. You need to give it time, rush through it, and you miss the flavor. Third, pair this with adequate protein. Your muscles need building materials. Think of the squat as sending the construction crew to work. The protein is the lumber and bricks they need to actually build something. Most people over 60 are not eating enough protein. You should be getting about 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal. Eggs, fish, chicken, beans, Greek yogurt, these are your building materials. Dorothy, the retired librarian from Iowa, is doing the slow squats now, 3 months in. She told me last week that she climbed the stairs to her attic for the first time in 2 years to bring down the Christmas decorations. Her daughter Sarah did not need to help. Robert, the former construction foreman, has been doing the squats for 4 months. He opened a jar of pickles last week. He made a point of calling me to tell me that. Then he opened another jar just because he could. Margaret, the grandmother who fell and lay on her kitchen floor for 3 hours, has not fallen in 6 months. She does her squats every morning before breakfast. She told me it is her fountain of youth ritual, and she said that when she catches herself stumbling now, her legs know what to do. They catch her, they hold her up, because they are strong enough now. William, the retired postal carrier who could not climb his stairs, moved back into his bedroom. He does his squats while holding the stair railing, right at the bottom of those stairs that used to defeat him. He said it feels like a victory every single time. Helen, the woman who was about to move into assisted living, unpacked her boxes. She is still in her home. She is still tending her garden, and she is still living the independent life she thought she had lost forever. George, the retired accountant who was never athletic, has a new confidence. He walks differently now, his wife says. He stands taller. He is not afraid of his own body anymore. Thomas, the retired bus driver who thought rebuilding muscle at 74 was impossible, now has a goal. He wants to play on the floor with his great-grandchildren. He is not there yet, but he is getting closer every day. And Elizabeth, the 81-year-old woman with 2 artificial knees, danced with her husband at their 60th wedding anniversary party last month. 60 years of marriage, and they danced. Her daughter sent me a video. I watched it about 15 times. This is what I want for you. I want you to understand that your body has not betrayed you. It has just been waiting for the right instructions. Walking is wonderful, but it is not enough. Your muscles need more. They need that clear, unmistakable signal that only comes from slow, controlled, deliberate strength work. And the beautiful part is that this does not require a gym or expensive equipment or a personal trainer or hours of your day. It requires one simple movement done correctly for about 10 minutes a day. That is less time than you spend brushing your teeth. You can start today. Right now, after you finish listening to this, stand up from wherever you are sitting, find a counter or a sturdy chair, and do one slow squat. Just one. Take 6 seconds to lower, pause at the bottom, and take 6 seconds to rise. Feel what that feels like in your legs. Feel your muscles wake up. Feel the signal being sent. And then tomorrow do a few more. And the day after that, do a few more. Within 3 weeks, you will notice a difference. Within 2 months, you will feel like you have a new pair of legs. Within 6 months, you will be doing things you thought you would never do again. This is not about becoming an athlete. This is not about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. This is about staying independent. This is about playing with your grandchildren. This is about climbing stairs without fear. This is about getting down on the floor to pet your dog and knowing you can get back up. This is about dancing in your kitchen with someone you love. If you know someone over 60 who is struggling with weakness, who is losing their balance, who is afraid of falling, please share this with them, because sometimes the most important thing we can do for someone we love is point them toward information that could change their life. Dorothy's daughter Sarah did that for her. Margaret's neighbor did that for her. Elizabeth's daughter did that for her, even though she was skeptical at first. And remember what I said at the beginning. The advice most people over 60 are getting about exercise is not just wrong, it is making things worse. Because when you walk and walk and walk and you still get weaker, you start to believe that weakness is inevitable. You start to believe that your body is failing you. You start to give up. But your body is not failing you. Your body is simply doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is responding to the signals it receives. And right now, today, you have the power to change that signal. You have the power to tell your muscles to rebuild. You have the power to rewrite the story of your next 10, 20, 30 years. Dorothy is 73, and she just climbed stairs to her attic for the first time in 2 years. Elizabeth is 81 with 2 artificial knees, and she danced at her 60th anniversary party. If they can do it, so can you. So the next time someone tells you that walking is all you need, remember what you learned today. Remember Dorothy and Robert and Margaret and William and Helen and George and Thomas and Elizabeth. Remember that your muscles are waiting. They are listening. They just need the right signal. And that signal, that simple, powerful, life-changing signal, is just one slow squat away.